Welcome to video number 8 in our Cybersecurity Lab 2026 video series. So in this video, we're going to install Active Directory on that Windows server that we installed previously. The first thing we're going to do is change the name of our server. So to do that, in the search bar, just type in name and view your PC name. We'll select that. And we can rename it. So basically Windows names their machines Win dot and then some random looking characters. We're going to select rename this PC and we're going to call it eCore-DC for domain controller. And then we select next. Now it tells us for the name to change, we need to restart the computer. So we'll go ahead and restart the computer and I'll pause the video while the system restarts. So once the system restarts, we can view the PC name and we see that the name has been changed to eCore-DC. To install the Active Directory services, we go to the Manage tab in the drop-down Add Rules and Features. On this Before You Begin page, we're just going to select Next. And this will be a role-based or feature-based installation, so we will select Next again. And the server that we want to pick is this one that we're actually logged into. So we will select Next. And now what we want to do is select the second button down. I'll do that again. The Active Directory Domain Services is the first one that we want to select. So once you make that selection, you'll get this pop-up and we will add these features. And this are basically those Active Directory services that we talked about before. And now that we have that selected, we will then go down to the Next menu and select Next. And then we will select Next again. And we're going to do this several times. This is just some background information. It's telling us about Active Directory Domain Services. So we can select Next. And we will select Restart the Destination Server automatically if required. And then we get this extra box jumps up and we can select Yes on that. And at this point, we're ready to select Install. Now this may take a few minutes, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so the installation is now complete, and you can see that because the status bar is all the way to the right, and it actually says installation succeeded. Now here's an important thing. Make sure that you select Promote this server to a domain controller before you go to the next screen. So we will select that. And now it's asking us if we want to add the domain controller to an existing domain or add the domain to an existing forest. What we are going to select is add to a new forest. And then what we'll do at that point is type in the name of the root domain, and that will be eCore.local. Once we've done that, we can select Next. We'll then be prompted for passwords. Now this can be the same password that you created to log into this server, which I recommend, and that's just because you're managing so many passwords in a lab environment. Now in a production environment, you would obviously want to have multiple passwords in case one gets compromised. And then we'll select Next. And then from this page, we'll go ahead and we'll select Next again. Now give us a few seconds. NetBIOS domain name should appear and it'll be eCore. And now we see that it has appeared. We can select Next. And this is the location of our Active Directory database. We will keep the defaults so we can select next. And this gives us a chance to review all of our options, and we'll select next. And now it's checking for prerequisites. All right, so now we can go ahead and click install. Don't be concerned about the warnings that you see on the screen. Just select install. This may take a few minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. All right, so once that has been completed, we will be logged out, and basically the system will restart. So we can go ahead and let that restart. So the system has restarted. So we want to use the input keyboard and the Control-Alt-Delete so that we can log in again with our password. Okay, we are logged back in. Now, once everything starts back up, you notice that we lost our full screen. That happens occasionally. We'll just have to manually minimize the screen again. There we go. We're back in a full screen. So the next thing that we want to do is to install our certificate services, or to configure the certificate services. So to do that, once again, we go to Manage and then Add Roles and Features. Once again, we can just select Next on this one. This will be a role-based or feature-based installation, so we can select Next. And once again, this is the server that we want to install this role on. At this point, we want to check the Active Directory Certificate Services box, and we get this pop-up immediately, and we want to add those features. And from there, we can select Next, and we can select Next once more. And this is just a screen that's telling us much more about Active Directory Certificate Services. We can select Next on that. If you're interested in finding out more, then by all means, go ahead and read. In the next box, it's asking us to select the roles or services to install in the Active Directory Certificate Services. So of course we want the certificate authority, so we'll select Next. And then we go ahead and select Restart the destination server automatically if required. Once again, we get that pop-up. We will select Yes. And now we are ready to install. As you can see, the installation succeeded. So we can now select the Configure Active Directory Certificate Services on the destination server. Make sure that you select that. This will ask for the credentials, which were good, so we can select Next. And we want to select the certificate authority and then select Next. We want to keep the Enterprise CA selected, so select Next. And we want the root CA selected, so we can select Next again. And lastly, we want to create a new private key, so we select Next. And at this point, we will highlight the SHA-256. and ensure that RSA, Microsoft Software Key Storage Provider, is in the top line. So once we've done that, we can select Next. And this just gives the name of the certificate authority. We will go ahead and keep that and select Next. And this keeps the certificate for 5 years, which will be plenty for our use, so we'll select Next. Now it's asking the location to store the database, so we just want to store the databases in the default locations, so we can select Next. And then it's asking us to configure the following roles, and we are ready to configure those, so we will select Configure. And now you can see that the configuration has succeeded, so we can go ahead and close that window. So now we've completed installing the certificate services. So one of the last things we can do is we can set up our network connections, which we've checked before. We want to make sure that they have not changed. So we'll go to our network adapter, select network and internet settings. And then we want to select Ethernet. For IP assignment, let's go ahead and select Edit. So we've set up a static IP address through pfSense, but let's just give it the same IP address manually on our Windows server. So it's 10.0.1.3, and we want a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. That is a /24 network. The gateway that we want to give it, that is the IP address of that pfSense interface, is 10.0.1.1. Our preferred DNS is going to be 8.8.8.8. We will have DNS over HTTPS switched off. So now we can go ahead and select Save. And at this point, we can bring up the command prompt again. This time we will select ipconfig/all. And then we're just confirming the information. We see the host name is ecore-dc. As we get down into this area, we see that DHCP is not enabled because we have a static IP address, and that static IP address is 10.0.1.3. We get the default gateway is the 10.0.1.1, and we see the DNS server is 8.8.8.8, which is, of course, is Google's web-based DNS server. And at this point, we have set up Active Directory on the server, so now our server is functioning as the domain controller. In the next video, we'll set up users, groups, and policies.